Hello, so I'm reading this book currently about the Enneagram, and I'm kind of surprised that I've only just now gotten around to it. Well, I mean, I'm on the last type now, but um, I got the book a few years ago and I'm only just now reading it. But I felt like it was an important book to read if you're interested in the Enneagram. And I'm currently on type 9, which is the last type that they've written about. And it got me thinking because I have type 9 in my Trifix, so I'm a 694, and I've talked about that on the channel before, and I wanted to kind of flesh out a few of my thoughts about type 9. This is a channel called Being Enneagram 6, but I do like to think and talk about other types. And this, type 9 is a type that I have very intricate personal experience with because I have it in my Trifix. I do think it'll be hard in a way to sort of flesh it out as intricately as I actually experience it, because I think unless you're super articulate and very, very self-aware, it's hard to actually talk about your own psychological mechanisms that you've been carrying for years and years, like basically your whole life, right? But I wanted to talk about my experience with my type 9, especially maybe through the lens of being a 6. So, how my 6 and 9 kind of interact, maybe, but focusing on the 9. So, yeah. So, as a 694, I've recently been having a an experience where I sort of went into my type 9, so to speak, or I kind of caught myself being in my type 9 because I feel like the three types in the trifix are sort of alive and flowing together. So you can kind of go into different, you can kind of dip into different rooms, let's say. So I can be in my 6 most of the time, but then I kind of go into my 9 and my 4, and it's this kind of interactive, flowing, alive sort of thing, right? Because we're humans. It's not like I'm just this or this or this. It's like I'm interacting with the different sides of myself. I'm kind of going into different tendencies at different times without losing the essence of my trifix. So I'm always a 694, but I kind of go into different rooms, so to speak, right? And so I've been having a situation where I've been kind of, well, I suppose I'm kind of coming out of it now, but I was in a situation where I felt myself having gone into type 9 and getting stuck there. And the way that that took shape was this kind of feeling like, you know, that what I want doesn't matter, that my opinion is not to be said out loud. I'm not allowed to say my opinion. I'm not allowed to assert myself, right? And this is something that I was reading about a lot in this book today. I was reading this book today, and it was so interesting to me because, like, I already know about the types. I've read different books, and like I know the essence of the types to a certain, to my level of understanding. There's a certain level of understanding that I have about the types, but it is still always super interesting to read about them. And when I was reading about the 9, it's kind of hit home for me as something that I do have in my psychology, even if it's not my core type. So I'm still kind of filtering the world mostly through my 6, if that is kind of my understanding. So I'm filtering the most of the world mostly through my 6, but I go into my 9. I go into it, and I very much felt myself going into it recently. So it was this thing about feeling this kind of resentment about not allowing myself to express an opinion. And I kind of went into this rabbit hole of like all the times that I have not been allowed to assert myself or express my opinion. And it came out as this kind of lashing out. And as a 6, the tendency is at times to lash out and to rationalize and to find like reasons why this is the case and reasons blah 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 blah, like all this kind of back and forth intellectualizing of a situation. And so I went into like my 6 mode, my kind of unhealthy 6 mode, where I was lashing out, but it was based on 9 themes, right? So that is super interesting to think about. So it's like I reacted in a six-ish way to 9-ish psychological tendencies and to 9-ish issues. So really the 9's issue, one of the issues is that the 9 has to allow themselves to first get in touch with your own like agenda and what you actually want and what you want to contribute and what you want to say. Really get in touch with that. What do you want? And next, give yourself permission to express that, because that is the thing that is ultimately going to prevent a situation where you have a lot of resentment about not being allowed to express yourself, because you didn't give yourself permission to do that in the first place. So you kind of can't blame other people. 6 can have issues with blaming people. So you can't really blame other people for something that you are not allowing yourself to do. But with a 9, it's so hard, and I know this on a personal level, it is hard to allow yourself to just express your opinion sometimes, right? And so you can kind of bottle things up, and it's almost like, what was I going to say? It's like the 9 has to learn how to allow them, first of all, get in touch with your own opinions and what you actually want to say, and then actually say it. But with a 9, it's like it's easier to just avoid, right, and not say it. It's almost like it's easier to just go months and months without saying something, when most people who are, let's say, not 9s, they would just kind of go and say it after a while. But the 9 can go to great lengths to not talk about certain things that probably should be talked about, when it's something like your opinion or something that's troubling you. But the 9 has an internal fear of disconnecting from people, right? There's, with a 9, there can be this kind of, I know this from on a personal level, from personal experience, that the 9 can have such a hard time with feeling like, if I talk about something, that it will cause like this chaos and these flames, and like it will cause this terrible incident. But people who are not 9s, or who don't have 9 in their trifix, they don't see it that way. So you kind of have to like take something from their personalities. So you kind of have to think, well, how about if I'm not a 9? Let's pretend that I'm not a 9, or that I don't have 9 in my trifix. It's like, what would I do then? So they can go to great lengths to avoid talking about something that they probably should be talking about. And it's almost like, they can spend months and months not doing that, not going all in into talking about it, or even just completely avoiding talking about it, when really they have to understand that talking about it is not going to cause them anything that they can't handle, in a way, right? So it's not going to necessarily cause some kind of huge chaotic argument or disconnection from other people, right? So what if you just pretend that you don't have that 9 fixation? And it's so hard to do that because that is your fixation, and so it's hard to kind of just let go of that. But if you pretend that you don't have that, like, this is something that I just kind of came up with, like maybe I should try this. It's like you just pretend that, okay, I'm not a 9. Like, what would another type do? Or somebody who doesn't have this in their trifix, what would they do? So just pretend that you're not scared to talk about something, let's say, and just kind of go and do it, and take the risk, right? Because it does seem risky to a 9, or to someone with 9 in their trifix, especially if you also have 6 like I do. So that's like overthinking everything and just kind of going in your head about everything and trying to rationalize and find reasons for things and like why this might go wrong and etc. But if you just pretend that you don't have that, so like just take the risk and just go and do the thing that you need to do, which is might be to talk about something. And then that actually gets you more in touch then with your own agenda because you're actually expressing it then, right? And the 9 can have so much difficulty with not being in touch with their own agenda, right? So it's like they can, maybe on some level they know what they want, but they will kind of go into this hazy mindset of like, well, I don't care, or I don't need anything, or I don't want anything. But then that can come out later as like some kind of resentment coming out of them, especially like if you have 6 like I have, so that can come out in like this very 6-ish display of like emotion, like this blow up. And with the Enneagram, it is about self exploration and self acceptance and catching yourself in the act, as they say in the Enneagram community a lot, catching yourself in the act. And that's kind of what I did, but I kind of allowed myself to stay stuck in that for a while. But I think maybe next time, if something like this happens, I will be able to kind of not only catch myself in the act, but also stop myself from going forward with what I'm doing. If what I'm doing is coming from an unhealthy place of my type, or some element of my trifix, right? So, like, I actually was very much allowing myself to stay stuck in that 9-ish and 6-ish frame of mind, where I'm like just allowing myself to keep expressing this resentment now, and like almost this unreasonable stuff was coming out almost because all this resentment was actually buried underneath, and so it just kind of came out. But if I had caught myself in the act before, I would have maybe been able to actually consistently talk about these things before, so that they wouldn't bottle up and kind of cause this resentment coming out after a while. But we kind of can't help our type, and so with the 9, it is this if you're a 9, or if you have a 9 fixation, it is this kind of thing of, it is sometimes hard to truly know like your own agenda. It's hard to like show up as yourself almost. So this book said something along the lines of, the 9 can be like all the other types, but the type that it's least like is the 9 itself almost. So it's like it's hard to inhabit your own sense of self. It doesn't show up. The 9 is a type that's structured around not showing up as like an independent self, right? It's like a loss of self almost. And so some types of 9s can kind of try to maybe get a sense of self by merging with other people, or merging with some kind of activity, or numbing out to avoid that feeling of like, I don't know who I am. So you're kind of numbing out by watching TV or like anything like that. But then there is this element of merging in the 9 that is like, I don't have my own self, so I'm going to merge with somebody else or their agenda, and like I will like become one with them. At least that's what the 9 kind of is thinking, or psychologically that's what they're kind of tending towards. So they're attempting to get a sense of self almost. At least that's my understanding. It's like they're trying to get a sense of self by merging with somebody else's agenda, but that is not really their own agenda, right? Anyway, so I think I said pretty much everything that I wanted to say. So if you want more, do subscribe. And if you have any comments or thoughts about this, do leave a comment and leave a like if you enjoyed this, got something out of it. Thank you.